Brian, I'm pretty sure Gunther wants to fuck you.
Oh, you really think so?
Yeah. I think that's been established for several seasons now.
Oh, man. Well, all the students at the university, they think I'm a real idiot.
Yeah, I bet. Isn't Manhattan a cool and good place to live?
It's great, but the prices are getting crazy. A 4,000 square foot penthouse apartment is going for as much as $1,200 a month now.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine if we weren't splitting it two ways?
So, Greg, what do you think of this cafe we're in?
Well, I think it captures the excitement and nostalgia of the show's milestone anniversary celebration, and that visitors are immediately immersed in a world they had only seen through their screens on the TV. That's just my thoughts that I have.
You got that right, and it's better than the AT&T store. Gunther.
Your tattoos are so deep, they really make me think.
Hello. Okay. Oh,
Hey.
welcome back to
Seattle
Sucks, and Greg fucked it up. All right.
No, say the next part, the tagline.
The podcast.
The podcast about hating the city we love.
Yes, nailed it. If you haven't figured it out yet, me and Greg are on the boat alone. Colin is skipping out because he has a weak immune system caused by children.
Colin is not taking his zinc. I set Brian up for that one. He fell for my trap.
Well,
It's like, oh, should I be Colin? Should I do the intro?
Colin has been weakened by children, whereas my brain has been weakened by video games.
Okay, Colin also plays video games. The big thing you guys don't have in common is alcohol.
Didn't want to bring it up, but Colin drinks too much, guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we're on the boat alone. Colin's absent. The children are in charge.
You say on the boat alone, but I mean, for me, this is company. You being here, you don't know what on the boat alone really feels like, Brian.
For Greg, this is a real life episode of Friends.
Yeah, this is the social engagement of my week. You know,
Should I ask AT&T if they have any more of those Central Perk decorations?
I didn't see pictures of the Central Perk pop up for the 25th anniversary of Friends. Who gives a shit? But I work in media. I've seen a set or two, and I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that this pop up, what you might like, where they say in that article that we were perusing earlier, that it will like recreates the coffee shop. I'm gonna guess, in fact, that it really lazily does so with like an approximately similar orange couch and some other sort of decor and maybe some like sort of vaguely atmospherically correct backdrops and such, and that like really looks nothing like the set from the show, and is really disappointing and demoralizing. How close am I?
All right, Greg. Nice to see you still don't believe in magic. All right. Still jaded as always.
Yeah, well.
We talked earlier about whether or not Friends, like, is anybody nostalgic for it? And I'm not entirely even sure. I feel like it gets talked about on Twitter occasionally, but more in a jokey manner. I don't know that anybody's, like, clamoring for Friends.
Well, like you were saying, I think people, like, remember it and watched it. I didn't, but watched it a lot and cared.
Greg was more of a mad about you kind of guy.
Hell hunt. Okay, so but you pointed out like that if you turn it on now, the laugh track is just on. You can't deal with it. You know.
Yeah. Not in a post 30 Rock world like
Yeah.
that. And all I hear is space where there could be jokes and there's nothing, and it's truly bizarre.
Yeah,
It's an odd
I
experience.
can
to
imagine it
rewatch.
just being super frustrating. You know.
Yeah. Well, that, and it's like hard to remember why you watched this. Although I think it was probably like the last show.
Because then
that-
you see them vamping, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Oh,
can
yeah.
just see them standing there vamping for the laugh,
Yeah.
and instead of saying something, because it's essentially theater. Like a
Mm-hmm.
sitcom is film is multi-camera theater.
Yeah,
And, these classic sitcoms, but anyway.
Well, and I remember very specifically there was an episode towards the end that had featured a guest cameo with Bradley Pitt, and at one point he says that in high school him and Ross did not like Rachel and formed an I Hate Rachel club, who is played by Jennifer Aniston, who was Brad Pitt's wife at the time, and they vamped
Lol.
extra hard on that because we all know as sophisticated television viewers that they're happily married and will be forever. And yet this character he's playing on the show, where it's still clearly Brad Pitt, doesn't like her.
I mean, it seems kinda
hard to
obvious
believe that 30 Rock came around and knocked this shit off the fucking air.
Yeah, that and like you were saying, also The Office.
Yeah, The Office, I think, was the first one that didn't have like laugh tracks and shit.
Yeah, I mean there were others.
Yeah.
There had always been, but like, yeah, very popular sitcoms. Yeah, to finally really, really kill it dead. Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
But well, you were always. Oh, anyway, let's talk about anything else, please.
Well,
No.
Greg, when you're at Central Perk, let me ask you a question. Do you like to have food while you're at Central Perk?
I don't know, maybe a Danish or something.
Well, Greg, not so for the kids at Garfield High School, because apparently there's not enough food to start the school year in their cafeteria.
Oh, cool.
So unlike Central Perk, they will go without the sandwiches.
Oh, that sounds like a thorny problem, because where do you get food? God knows.
It's impossible to find in this country.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah, so I like this, though, right here at the top. Garfield High School lunchroom manager Rachel Kane says, here we are, week 3. I have bread, I have fries, but I don't got any burgers. And as far as I'm concerned, that is trash and it sucks. Also, no spicy chicken sandwiches, which is
okay.
bullshit.
Okay, but you put the fries between the bread, and it's a fry burger.
There you go, starch on starch. Yeah, apparently, well, here we go, right here from Kane. It's not the ordering system, it's the administration. So apparently the administration failed to order the appropriate amount of food, although comically they sent different food items to different schools. So now the schools are calling each other and essentially trading food items in what is sort of a wacky 90s sitcom.
No, that sounds more like a post-war sitcom, what's the Phil Silvers show or something, you know, like
Well, it's like that episode of Hogan's Heroes where
yeah,
they forgot to
yeah.
have food
It's-
for all the
or
camp
McHale's
inmates.
Navy, you know, it sounds very like Scrounger, like it sounds like post-war, like World War II comedy.
Yeah, and as one of the administrators ends up popping in and saying in this article, which I believe was on KUOW, it's the first couple of weeks, and we didn't get off to the best start. And so far, we've been cataloging that start. So we had the SPD patrolling the buses to ticket the students right when they showed up. And now we have our food shortage, which
Yeah, it's
is
like-
pretty sweet.
It's like someone decided, like, guys, school, it just is prison now.
Yeah.
So just let's start that off on the new foot. You know? That's fucked up. I mean, it's fucked up that what they're missing is like the burger patties, not like actually like any kind of like the food they're gonna get is fucking shit. The shit diet that
an
like,
astonishing lack of real
anyway.
food on that listing of food.
Yeah. Like that's we can afford. We're willing to serve people the cheap beef, you know, but to actually like serve them like a real diet of real food that's healthy and good would be getting away with something for those kids who, you know,
well,
you can't like have like a cheese course for kids who are going to go home and eat macaroni and cheese. That would just be, it wouldn't be befitting their natural class. So
exactly. Well, I have a friend who works at let's just say fancy private school here in town, and they've told me about the food that gets served to the kids there, and let me tell you, it's not French fries and hamburgers and spicy chicken sandwiches. It's a little more Whole Foods than that.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess it still sucks compared to like, you know, any kind of like European school lunch or something.
Yeah, sure, they're eating better than me though. I'll tell you that.
I believe because
hard.
I've seen how you eat. And it's like a Garfield student.
Pretty much. But yeah, you know, not to incriminate myself at all, but yesterday we did have at my friend's house a ribapalooza where we literally just cooked 30 pounds of ribs and just ate ribs.
Wow.
So I am kind of eating like an adult child.
What were the side dishes?
Who cares, honestly? No, but there was mac and cheese and coleslaw and like a cream corn dish. There were some things. I'm not eating that shit, all right? But you tell me you have 30 pounds of ribs, I'm there to eat ribs, all right? I'm not there to fuck around with no mac and cheese. Like, get that shit out of here.
Cool. Well, sounds like the problem with schools in Seattle and America are small sort of technical administrative things that could just be more efficient and maybe could be run better by computers and everything would be good. That's cool.
Oh, right? Greg, do you hear that? I think that was a record scratch because while the kids at Garfield High might be missing out on spicy chicken sandwiches, the kids at Rainier Beach High just don't get social studies anymore, which is cool. You don't need that.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, that sounds boring anyway.
Well, I frequently thought a full year of history class was kind of dumb. Like, what about American history can't you fit into, like, 2.5 months?
Yeah, all you need to know is, I can do American history in, like, 5 minutes. The Constitution was good but flawed. We fixed it in the Civil War, and America had to drop the bomb.
First off, you're already fucked up. The Civil War was bad. It was a war of northern aggression. Okay. Luckily, it got worked out.
Not in this state. All right, maybe where you went to high school, dude.
It's just gonna be the founding fathers showed up in America. George Washington, literally in 1500. Scene deleted. God gave us the Constitution. It was great. Scene deleted all the way up to probably the 20th century. Something about Henry Ford. ... Scene deleted.
President Henry Ford invented the modern world and the iPhone.
Yeah, nothing about his international travel for sure. Scene deleted. The liberals forced us to lose Vietnam or whatever. Not even the liberals.
The hippies.
The hippies forced us to lose Vietnam. Yep.
Because they spat on. It was a morale problem essentially.
Yeah, they were so mean with their horrible rock music that we just couldn't stand killing another human being.
Yeah, it was. It was essentially a morale problem when like a massive technological empire can't go toe to toe with like a motivated like force on their own territory, politically organized. It's because of morale.
It's because of rock music. Now, here's a funny question.
It's just an expression of the poor morale of our country.
Yeah, how far up do you think their history class? Well, now that's only half a semester, or it's a semester. How far up do you think that the history class goes? Because when I was
Where
in high
does it
school,
start? I mean, you can cover a lot. There's a lot has happened in ever, Brian.
well, it's presumably, I assume it's usually from beginning to Reconstruction, post-Reconstruction.
Well, we're
to
talking
today
about
is
this
usually.
is an American history class.
Yeah,
is it
yeah,
cutting?
yeah. It's U.S. history. Yeah.
U.S. history. Okay.
So where do you think they stop at though? Because when I was in high school, we always stopped at Vietnam, and this was a solid 20 years after Vietnam ended. But
yeah.
nothing had
I mean,
happened in the intermission.
Well, we hadn't like.
we'd
had
definitely
a
been in some
meaning-
wars, but
Yeah,
we weren't going to talk about it yet.
They're not ones we would like to talk about. So
Yeah. We hadn't derived meaning from them yet.
yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Okay, so where does it stop? If the full year you're saying went from
It definitely
the 1776 or like the Stamp Act or something to 1975.
It probably goes. Yeah, it probably goes 1876 to 75, right? Post Reconstruction to 75. That's
Oh,
the
in
usual.
1 year?
Yeah, usually like 1 year is like post Reconstruction
Okay.
to today.
I don't know.
And
I didn't even. I think I did U.S. history in 1 year in high school.
Oh my god, maybe.
I don't fucking remember, dude. Whatever. Okay, so I don't. So
Greg, I think we all know exactly what day it ends on, and I think we're just, we're beating around the bush.
look, I don't think if I was again truncating U.S. history, I wouldn't like just lop an end off. I would condense and just talk about the wars, like battles, how they were fought, troop movements. You know. Yeah, I'd be like, well, this is when during the Battle of the Bulge, you see, when the 101st were trapped in Bastogne and Third Army made its like world historical pivot and march north off the front to cut off the German advance. It would be like that.
Mine would begin with a list. Here's a list of famous Americans who sided with the Nazis.
Come on. I mean,
We're gonna go through
what?
the list.
You'd need at least a whole year.
It's gonna be one of those comical scrolls that just rolls out forever.
Yeah.
But no, I think we all know that it ends with the end of history chapter, last day 9/10/2001, and that's how we end it. All right. So
that sounds great. So
let's figure out what's going on at Rainier Beach High School.
That's
Let's
because
see what's
we're
happening.
we live in a poor country that just a failed
No
state
resources.
essentially with no resources.
Yeah.
Why
Washington
bother?
State is the failed state.
Why bother? Yeah. Seriously.
Luckily, there's no rich people here to get money from. So apparently part of the problem is that for the past several years, Seattle Public Schools has undercounted the amount of prospective students at Rainier Beach. Last year, assuming there would be 671 students, when in fact there were 740.
Just Rainier Beach?
Apparently this is a problem very specific to Rainier Beach, yeah. I'm not going to say, I imagine if we were to look at the student body demographics, it would probably illuminate the problem.
I mean, so what? I mean, how many fifths are they off by?
That's it. You know what? That would be a funny joke if they had that part of American history still intact so that we could talk about it. But apparently that's cut out entirely.
Seriously.
Got to make room. So only get it in 2 months.
I mean, that was really because you think of like in bureaucratic, you think of like bureaucratic dysfunction as like overestimating its, if they're responsible for taking their own census of whatever and reporting that to the city, the school board or whatever, and saying for their resources, you'd think they'd be asking for more, right? And like going like, oh, whoopsie, we got and like when the numbers in day one come in, they finally admit they overaccounted by 20 and have to give back the money or something.
Yeah.
And then maybe,
Yeah.
that's what you would think. So what the fuck, Brian?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure it's just an honest mistake. So, here's again, this is from Crosscut, I believe. But here, let's get into a little bit of the funding. All right, so this is from Crosscut. We have a little bit of explanation here about one of the many funding problems at Rainier Beach. But I just kind of want to read this. It's, look, I know our listeners, their brains have been melted by Fortnite. They can't pay attention. But we'll try and listen to this and see if we can make sense of it. All right. The largest factor that goes into estimating per pupil spending calculations is teacher pay. Until recently, these expenditures were calculated based on a district's average salary requirements. However, recent provisions made to the federal Every Student Succeeds Act now requires states to use actual teacher salaries in an effort to increase transparency in school funding reporting. What could go wrong, right? More transparency. In Seattle, an educator with 11 years of experience was the prototype. To get that number, the sum of teacher pay, federal funding, state money, and local dollars was divided by a school's total enrollment. However, teachers at Rainier Beach have an average of just 7 years in teaching under their belts. At Roosevelt High School, by contrast, teachers average nearly 16 years of experience. As a result, both schools incurred much different costs in reality than they had in district estimates, which led to the overstating of how much money either school actually received. What this effectively means and what per student spending doesn't capture is a school like Rainier Beach is effectively subsidizing a school like Roosevelt, since both schools are recorded as paying the district average salary for one full-time employee regardless of the actual cost.
What a fucking convoluted bit of nonsense. I mean, this is all shit that is the way we run, like, the modern liberal state is designed to push ever toward austerity. And like this convoluted bullshit that I'm not saying I understood it, a word of that. I got lost in there. But like it seems like must be an easier way to do accounting for this kind of thing. But the point is, right, like some schools are actually getting more funds than others, and we're fighting over the scraps here, which is the real. This is austerity. Now, one thing to obviously pull out of there is the fact that there's a major discrepancy in the experience of teachers between Roosevelt.
I'm gonna guess if we look into the demographics of Roosevelt, probably different than Rainier Beach.
It's like Ravenna, essentially. So yeah,
and part of it too is to sort of highlight, if anybody can suss out the complicated accounting that's going on there, which is only a part of the formula for figuring out how the school gets funded. What you end up finding out is, there's these super complicated ways to decide school funding, but it really all just comes down to ensuring that poor schools get nothing, and that wealthy schools get everything.
And school through a complicated number of somersaults that obscures that.
Yeah.
And you got to think, like, you got to go behind that, because it's not like someone sitting there being like, how do I be racist? That's not how America works,
that
right?
Someone is named Mackle. No, just joking.
What's happening here is because of our totally entrenched austerity politics, the full wages of the Reagan Revolution here. Every part of government, certainly schools, has nowhere near the amount of money to fund what a good education would actually be. We know that. So what you then have to do is come up with these convoluted ways to distribute what little cash there is, and of course that in a million ways, including people just being openly racist, but also other ways, structural ways that people that just have to do with power, right? The constituency of parents in a wealthy neighborhood like Ravenna, North Seattle, are gonna notice and cause fucking hell when there's some problem, because they have the power. They have power. Their voices matter. They matter. They fucking matter.
Yeah, it comes down to
poor people of color, non-white people, and poor people in general. In Rainier Beach, they just matter less. So the it's like it's like anything else in this town.
Yeah, they have political power, so they can move the system in the way that they want it to move. And the other thing, too, is given the, historical sort of nature or the history of the United States, which these kids don't get to learn about anymore, that power is distributed in, racialized ways and things like that as well. But all that can exist in the background, right? Completely unseen by those exercising that power, I think, in a lot of ways, right?
There's exactly. Oh, yeah, because this is how power works in this society. We have
so they feel they're just doing the thing you do, right?
They're just doing the thing you do. And another thing that's interesting about that they're just doing in this is in the story, talked about how the administrators at Rainier Beach had to go like, oh fuck, well we didn't actually get allocated the funding we should have for the number of students we have. So we now have to juggle this shit around and figure out. And what they came up with, the best solution they came up with was, okay, we cut half a year of history, right, or something like that. That sounds insane outside of like this bureaucratic morass, because what you should, if the whole convoluted numbers that the district used to estimate and distribute funds to allocate turn out on day one of classes or the week before school when enrollment is found out to be wrong, you would think the solution would be, oh, we fucked up, we fund the school, because we have a system that wants to fund the school, that that the point of which is constitutionally the case in Washington State, the point of which is to adequately fund the school so that kids get a good education. But that's not the point of our system. The point of our system is to spend as little money as possible and to have these convoluted bureaucratic, technocratic barriers that in the end it goes, well, oh, it's a done deal. Throw your hands up. There's nothing we can do. We just move on, do the best we can with dog shit,
Well, and what if
it's insane. Why can't they just get more money? Well, there isn't. We starving the beast here is what's happening.
Yeah, and also, what if we, and Greg, I want you to walk down this thought experiment with me.
I'm here for
What if we lived in a society that had a very small number of truly, like, good outcomes, like high-paying, fulfilling jobs, things like that, right? That we had to distribute amongst a very large number of people who've been taught through cultural whatever that those outcomes are possible for them to achieve. And what if we created a system of sort of a siphoning mechanism that these people would go through, where we tell them, yes, if you go through this system, you jump these hurdles or whatever, you can go get those good jobs or whatever. But we artificially close it off at points so that fewer and fewer people get through every level of it, right? And get the things they get to.
In which case,
then they blame themselves for
fault.
The failure, right? Because then we can always point back, like, well, why didn't you do the hurdles?
You didn't go through the maze.
Yeah.
You perform poorly in this maze.
Yeah, if you want to be a rat with cheese, you got to get through the maze.
So it's not that there isn't opportunity out there for you to live a dignified human life. It's that you fucked up.
Yeah.
You didn't do this shit.
The cost of which is you get to live like shit the rest of your life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're better off just dying, honestly.
Well, the no worries here, though, because the Rainier Beach staff plans to launch a fundraiser in October as part of an effort to reinstate the teaching positions that were cut.
Fucking absurd.
So
fuck off. How is please does it get do we get a quote from the mayor's office in here anywhere, from the school board, from the state, from the governor going like, oh, well, this is like, here's how we fix, we just pay for it? Like, no.
Well, they do have a quote from somebody in the district saying that they budgeted to be short. So they were counting on being short. So I guess there's that. No, that pretty much is how it closes out.
So that's the moment right there. That's in one of 1,000 moments that we get to see quoted, apparently, like where someone went, yeah, well, obviously there's not enough money to really educate everyone well, so here's a little number on a spreadsheet I'm going to put in that makes the numbers work in the end and fucks some people.
Yeah.
Because that's my job. That's my as a low-level functionary in this society. That is my job.
When some of us
fucking disgusting country,
and some of us
city.
are slightly old enough and maybe went to different school districts and remember a time when the school actually got money from the state and shit, and you didn't have to have fundraisers. But apparently, fundraisers is a pretty enormous part of the school budget now. And if you were to take a guess between Rainier Beach and say up where Roosevelt is, up in what the hell is that fucking neighborhood right there? The
Ravenna.
fancy up in Ravenna. Who do you what neighborhood do you think can raise more money via fundraiser?
Well, the answer is obvious. One has more need to, and one has more ability to, and they're not the same. Those are opposed. This is part of this system of austerity, right? Because this is how power distributes the effects of that austerity differently. We don't tax the richest people in this country, but they still want their kids to go to a good school, so they tax themselves. Yeah, on a small scale, so they don't. What I think get spread around.
I think they would say that if the parents of Rainier Beach truly cared about their children, they would make the effort to get it done. Right? That would be their thing. Right?
But seriously, what they would say,
I think there is a bug in the liberal brain that does believe that poor people just don't love their children as much as they do, right?
Oh,
sure. like they just care more about their kids.
But
they would
with
figure
that
it out.
situation and that reality, they would abstract it from themselves and say, "Well, I'm just acting in the system. I'm here. I want my kids to have a good education. For whatever reason, the state and the city can't provide that to my adequate." What I feel is adequate. So I'm going to pitch in and contribute as a good citizen. Yeah. And when you say, well, why don't we just do that on a state level? And it's well, okay, or somebody organize that, and then it's not their problem anymore. It's these people have power, other people don't, so they get to.
When they do view
keep this wealth in their community,
when they truly believe in the idea of if our kids do the hurdles right, they'll get the good job and everything. When the reality is if your kid's just born in the right family, they'll get the good job, right? But they believe in the meritocracy of school, right?
Oh my God!
And so they.
I mean that is a foundational tenet of
let me tell you,
Seattle mindset.
Well, let me tell you the story. This guy years ago who I knew, who was a math teacher in LA public schools, right? He was at the math magnet school or whatever, fancy school for kids who are nerds. And the janitors there, the custodial staff basically was we're not getting paid enough, and was threatening to strike or do whatever. And the parents' response to this was they all volunteered to come clean the school. They said, fuck the custodians. We'll clean the school for you guys to keep everything operational. And this is the mindset of a truly sick person who buys into all the bullshit, right? Their kid has to be in that school. They got to get, to the next level or whatever. Because if they don't, then, their life will not have dignity, right?
They'll push around a trash can in a, tiled institution because they're doing it for their kids and the kids in their community who deserve it. Yeah,
and they're completely convinced that, this is a life or death struggle, and their kids, they gotta do what they gotta do, right? And I think that's kind of how a lot of them would see it as well.
They have to do that to the extent that they have to keep up the appearance of our meritocracy. They have to jump,
if you hang around with rich people, I think a lot of them actually believe in the meritocracy. They think they got there on their own merit.
Absolutely. They don't know. They don't understand the system, but it's true that even upper middle class kids have to jump through the hoops. They just have to. There are just a lot less things tripping them up, and those hoops turn out to be very easy for them, and so they get the little badges, the merit badges along the way. It's just much easier. It's not a level playing field. They have to do it. If you really fuck up and you're just an upper middle class kid, you're not going to have. If you just totally drop out and live in the woods or something, I mean, you're not going to be on the same path. But it's very easy to jump through. The handful of hoops in your way. There's just not a lot of impediments,
Yeah. Well, and I can't remember if I told this story on the podcast before, but when I was at Texas Tech University, which is a 8th tier college, usually doesn't appear on any tiers, somewhere down below. And it's where if your parents, so some schools in Texas have like, the kids of governors, right? The children of politicians, right? Some schools have the children of like oil magnates and stuff like that. Texas Tech catered to like the children of middling car dealerships, right? Car dealership owners. And these guys would be in class like, I'm going to get an MBA and become a CEO of like a Fortune 500 company. And I remember trying to like explain to them at one point, like, you're not. And it never occurred to them that like, no, you like where you're born in America, like there's a caste system in America, and where you're born actually is going to foreclose that opportunity for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, like, your dad's
You'd already
Hyundai
be-
dealership
you
isn't
gotta-
going to get you there, bud. Like,
You don't understand. They'd already be halfway there.
Yeah,
at
yeah.
that moment.
Yeah. If you were going to get picked out of obscurity, like say a Bill Clinton or whatever, like you would already be on a major campus. Like you've already failed. Like the fact that you're here,
Yeah, yeah.
like the fact that you're in contact with me
Yeah.
means you have failed.
Man, knowing either of us like
Yeah.
bodes very poorly for your future.
Yeah, you're certainly not on the rise. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh my God, no.
But
Fucking
yeah.
unbelievable.
So moving from not teaching history class to maybe some more basic issues. We had a friend that we'll discuss somewhat anonymously here, whose child is in elementary school, and they were very upset to find out that in order for their child to use the bathroom, they were given fake money by the teacher in exchange for doing, I guess, I don't know, coloring well or some shit.
Homework. You turn in a homework assignment.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. You get some Monopoly money or
you get
whatever.
some Monopoly money each time. Yeah.
But say you want to take a shit, they had to fork over some of that Monopoly money to the teacher to pay to use the bathroom.
Interesting.
If you don't got the money, I guess you shit yourself. I don't know. But anyways, we kind of shared this on the Slack a little bit, thinking this was just a funny anecdote. What an oddball teacher. Only to find out that somebody on Twitter had posted an app that was being used at their elementary school where anytime your kid went and used the bathroom, you had points subtracted in real time that the parent could
You
see
get
on the app.
a
Demerits.
finite every week or something. You get a finite or month. You get a finite number of shit points.
Exactly.
It's
Only
little
take
little
a
poo
certain amount of
emojis.
shits.
Little poo emojis that go away every time you take a shit.
Yeah, and
Well, that is truly fucking dystopic, but I think it makes a lot of sense, man.
in that you agree with it.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. Like I think this is really it's really telling. I get the impetus for it. You can imagine like a teacher going in a school system going like, well, kids, they can just say I have to take a shit and go to the bathroom, and there's nothing we can do, so they can abuse that and they can just leave and go fuck off and then whatever. And the thing about this is that's normal and good. That people should be able to take a shit whenever they want. But what you see happening with that, and it makes perfect sense, is like I think this is about as school and work slowly get squeezed more into being just prison.
Yep.
All things that were once like sacrosanct or totally off the table, powers you have as a human person, like for example to say, oh, it's time for me to take a shit, now is the time that my body needs to take a shit, I'm taking this now, sometimes I might have to do it 3 times a day. That is something that at school, at work, that you have that power as a human being with a human body. You have that power, and I can imagine, and you can see it like as the vice tightens around people at the workplace and at school into more, again, like becoming a prisoner. An authority figure is looking around and see now once all these other powers are constrained, once are stripped away and control is tightened, suddenly this thing that was just this innocuous reality of like, yeah, you take a shit when you want to take a shit, an authority figure is seeing that and going, well, that is a power that this prisoner has over me, their warden, to just say I have to take a shit, and they start to become distressed about that. And so they have to come up with some convoluted way to put it to make the kids police themselves, right? Because they can't just say, well, sorry, you get one shit break a day. It's at this time. Everyone has a time. They go. They can't do that because, again, this is sacrosanct. So you have to, bring it in slowly, which is by introducing some fucking market incentive or, budgeting your shit breaks or whatever. So this puts it in the hands of the kids, whatever. It's fucking dystopic, but I think it is emblematic of a larger thing.
Yeah, when I was talking with my girlfriend about this, who works in childcare or whatever, and her response was like, wow, that's awful and inhuman. And my response, I thought, was well, I feel like this is just training for industry in the sense of every second you're not on the floor doing something. I think we talked about this in the Boeing thing about if you don't have kinetic movement on the floor, management's convinced that they're losing money. And certainly anytime you're in the bathroom, they're convinced you're losing money.
Well, I think that's the motivation for it in the workplace. So we've seen Amazon at their warehouses. This is one of the most, again, because this is this sacrosanct thing, and it should be, we should have all kinds more power over our fucking bodies and lives, but this is a new frontier that's being taken away in this society. And that's one of the reasons this was used as one of the principal sort of warning stories about the Amazon warehouse situations with their whole timing systems where people were to make their quotas fucking pissing in bottles and shit instead of making the walk
out on
to
the floor,
bathroom.
right? Yeah.
And what that tells you is that though Amazon was not they didn't have a whole specific bathroom system, they had this whole timing system and quota that the bathroom breaks were definitely a part of, and so you had to factor that into your shit. And they've been accused of also deliberately putting the bathrooms far away so that it takes more time to shit. So you again.
Well, they want you to internalize.
A budget. They want you to internalize it and budget it, and only really shit when you have to.
Yeah, because when you work in the service industry, this is a big thing. In the service industry, you can, in theory, sort of be denied. You pretty much always have to ask to use the bathroom and can, in theory, be denied. But what they're really doing is training you to internalize your own discipline as far as using the bathroom, and restaurant's busy, can't use the bathroom now. And it's no, fuck that, dude. Best time to use the bathroom. But I will tell you, I had this job at West Telemarketing. Shout out to West Telemarketing. And at the job, whenever you wanted to use the bathroom, you had to hit this button on your computer that said because they had an auto dialer and stuff to they would pause the auto dialer that specifically was for using the bathroom, and it basically kept a counter going while you're in the bathroom until you got back on, and you would get fired for basically using the bathroom too much. And it was, for a lot of reasons, the most dehumanizing, awful job I've ever had. But that's right there at the top. Being told when you can and can't shit, or having somebody watch you, essentially, technologically, track you in the bathroom is real, fucking prison inmate shit. That's dehumanizing.
But let's look at it a different way. In that, how many buttons did you have for I'm gonna take a break now?
Oh no, there was
the one.
There was
right?
Well, there was three. There was your officially mandated break. My manager wants to yell at me. You had that button as well, and then your shit button.
Right.
Those
the shit button was on there,
and
that is telling that is recognized as a thing that just, even in this extremely controlled prison-like telemarketing environment, you can anytime you can stop that dialer and walk away. Now, if you abuse it in the mind of the worker by, stealing time, if they, then they're going to come at you. But in the moment, you have that power to do that whenever you want.
When I'd heard a rumor from maintenance guys at the shop that was that I think it was at the Fanuc company or whatever. But anyways, in their main headquarters, that if you used the toilet, they had a jammer device, so you couldn't use your phone in the toilet. So, I mean, companies are increasingly obsessed with our toilet time. And I feel like this is dribbled down to the fucking school level. And we're now essentially training kids that if you want to be a good student, just piss in your pants. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like if you piss in your pants but catch the entire lesson, A+.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like,
We're all the secretary from the secretary.
yeah. It's again, it's this whole idea of time theft, like, which is good and cool, and you should do it because it's not a real thing. Like,
Yeah.
like-
Fuck your boss. So I was
because, like, I mean, we've said this before. Like, yeah, the best time to take a shit is like, you know, right anytime you're on the clock for sure, right?
On the
That's
clock
that's the other
only,
thing about this shit
exclusively.
is this. It really, it's like they don't want you taking too much time, right? But what they also want you to do with these kids and at work is take it on your other mandated breaks and lunches. Okay, they want
shit on your own time.
They want they're training the kids like better to just shit at lunch. So if I ever have like a diarrhea emergency day, I've got enough credits built up or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
And at work, you know, better to take that shit on your mandatory, you know, whatever it is, 10, 15 minutes every 4 hours break, or at your lunch break.
Yeah.
Better to just use up the bathroom then, because they know that without that kind of a system, any worker with like a working brain cell is literally that's the last thing you would ever do. I've never taken a shit off the clock in my entire working life. I never have. I never will.
Literally, if I have to take a shit before I go to work, I hold it until I go to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're in. Look, I mean, the relationship between labor and management is always in conflict, and shit breaks are just like, you know, a new battlefield.
Yeah, they're trying to get as much out of you as possible, and you're trying to reserve as much labor. You know, you want to sell your labor dear, they want to buy it cheap, right? So I was curious about this shit break situation, because I just kept coming into finding examples of teachers like penalizing the kids for using the bathroom, which I certainly don't remember when I was in school, but I found, and I thought I would read this for you, Greg, because I knew you would enjoy this most of all, on a website called teachinghub.com, which is for teachers to help them with, you know, classroom questions and skills.
So you've been getting into the forums asking for help about
shitting.
About teaching your students how to shit?
Exactly.
You're a teacher now.
Exactly. Dude, I teach like a shop class essentially at this high school, and there is literally in the fucking shop this like toilet that's just off the side of the shop where we also keep all the raw material. And this guy was like, "Can I use the toilet?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, go use the one in the school." And he's like, "Oh, no, I want to use that one." And I was like, "Why?" Like, we can hear every grunt. It's like the fucking toilets we talked about in the last episode. But anyways, so this is from Janelle Cox, who describes herself as an elementary education expert. So just keep that in mind. And it's classroom management, dealing with trips to the bathroom.
So this is an
elementary
management
school
of children guru. Like,
Yeah,
this is
an elementary
management
school
theory
guru.
for
Yeah.
teachers.
Yep.
Great. I can't wait. I am fucking serve it up to me, dude.
All right. So restroom breaks during class time can be a tricky issue to handle. If you're a frequent bathroom goer, then you know it's hard to tell a student they cannot use the restroom. I like that she's like identified with us right off the bat. She's like,
Yeah.
look, we're all in this together. We've all had to shit before.
Also, she's like, yeah, it's just that it's hard to tell a student they can't go to the bathroom. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is hard.
That's normal.
Because
you
it
should think about
be.
that.
Yeah. If your class is so fucking boring that kids want to go like skip by going to the bathroom when they don't have to, then there's a problem with education in this country, and also you probably
Well,
suck
Greg,
ass.
something you haven't considered is that oftentimes students use the "I have to go to the bathroom" as an excuse to get out of class and meet up with friends.
Like I said, it's a power that people have to get away with something. The man is fucking catching on because they've taken away all their other rights and powers. And they're identifying this. They're like, look,
dystopian.
this is
It's
the
dystopian.
last thing. This is the last frontier
is.
of human freedom is the shit break. And we got to find a way to fucking stomp it out. We got to put a boot on that shit break. God damn it.
They're standing over us and saying, like, you know, do not get too used to shitting because then you'll get addicted to it and you'll, resent its absence. But yeah, all right. So, how many toilet friends did you have in high school where you guys were just like, dude, meet at the toilet, we're gonna high five?
At least when I was in high school, I remember that
Did you high five under the stall or
general
above the
shit
stall?
break
You're kinda
rule
tall.
was pretty much only one student in the class
Yeah.
could go at a time.
Yeah, which is very normal.
Which is a very, that's
That's
curve
hallway
that-
management stuff.
Yes, yeah. And that it's a thing that makes sense because it's like, I mean, if you're just taking a shit, you're only going to be a couple of minutes. You can wait 2 minutes while one kid takes a shit if you happen to have to shit at the same time.
Well,
he
and
does.
certainly if some other kid was like, I absolutely have to shit, like you would let them go or whatever.
Well,
But
this
yeah.
begs the question. I mean, but that's the case in all of this shit.
Yeah.
But it's
you would
a
act like a
system.
normal human.
It's a system of control, right?
Yeah.
Because it's about them internalizing. Yeah, ultimately, everyone if some kid's like, I really got to shit. First of all, I mean,
So
you're gonna make them. But if it gets that bad, if they've used all their shit breaks and they really have to shit, like the student who shat wolf or something, then you're gonna make them humiliate themselves in front of the class by going, teacher, I'm gonna shit my pants if you don't let me break the rules and take a demerit. You can spank me after.
exactly. All right. Anyways, should teachers be able to limit a student's restroom use? Every so often, you read about the teacher who didn't let their student use the bathroom, and now they are the ones that are being punished. Now, I'm going to point out they're really burying the lead here, which is that, a
teacher didn't let their student use the bathroom.
and the kid, probably pissed themselves, in class or something, and the parent was upset for some reason that they're, first graders covered in piss because the teacher's a giant piece of shit. Well, it's crazy that they're in trouble. We've all... Go
When
ahead.
I was a first grader, I didn't... when I was that... young, I didn't like asking the teacher if I could go to the bathroom. I didn't like to do that.
Yeah, I can see that. But no, it's awkward. It's a weird thing. All right. And obviously you don't want to stand in front of all your friends and be like, I have to shit.
Yeah.
All right. We have all experienced at one time or another the sudden urge to have to get up and use the restroom while in an important meeting, or have been in a situation where you shouldn't get up. So we can sympathize with our students. So we already associate this with a job, right?
Shut the fuck up. In an important meeting...
I'm going to say this woman's never been in an important meeting in her life, but whatever.
First of all, an important meeting is a thing that lasts an hour, and you've already shit and pissed sometime during the day.
It's also bad that you can't get up and shit in an important meeting. I'm going to put that out
Right,
there, too.
right.
That it shows a power indifference.
But probably
that is
you don't
fundamentally
have to.
bad.
But probably you don't
Oh,
have
sure,
to.
because
you already have. When you're at school, you are in prison. You are at a desk for 55 minutes out of every hour for 7 fucking hours, okay? So, chances are you're going to have to shit at some time during that prison sentence. And you know what? Even if you had the time and would not to make it to your next class and shit, which is dubious, certainly not everyone in the school can do that, or you'd have a real problem. People are gonna have to fucking shit.
Well, Greg,
You'll have to take a shit.
Greg, I think that this is what she's getting at here in saying that we can sympathize with our students, but our job as teachers is to decipher when students are just dying to get out of class and when they really have to go.
Whoa. Yeah, that's
so
your job as a teacher.
Is to separate the
know?
real bathroom breaks from the bogus ones.
Ugh.
By the way, I love...
Just
She's already set the situation as it's her against the students who are just trying to make her look like an asshole by letting them take a shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep in mind, elementary school expert is what she's claiming. So this is the level of deviousness that she feels that elementary students are up to. All right. So,
Also, what is, and with an elementary school student, okay, kid has to go to the bathroom, they go. If they're trying to skip class, then they're still gonna be gone in 10 minutes, and then you're gonna know. If it's something you're getting away with in an elementary school classroom, then it took 2 minutes to do, right?
yeah.
It's like you got out of class and were like, I don't have to pee. And then you think about it, and you're like, well, maybe I should while I'm here, and then you go back in 2 minutes, or otherwise, like, the jig is up, and you're just fucking around. The teacher's gonna poke her head into the fucking hallway and see you're just like doing
dicking
nothing.
around in the hallway.
Like, if they don't come back in 2 minutes, then you know something is amiss. If they do, they haven't missed anything.
Yeah. Well, and I think too,
even if they didn't take a shit. They were only gone for 2 minutes.
There's an enormous amount of like research that shows that how we teach people, where we just like lecture at them for hours at a time, is not like good. Like, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
that people actually do need breaks. So even if all they wanted was a break to just sit outside,
this
like,
is
they
natural.
should get it. Yeah.
If they're like, I just have to stand up and not look at this and look. I just have to like walk, go outside the door, close it behind me, stand there.
Yeah.
Like, that's a natural, like, human response that I guess the idea is to beat out of them. Yeah.
And almost certainly would benefit their learning whatever was taught, right? But I think what we're learning here is that what's being taught is not what's important. Discipline is what's important, right? We're learning labor discipline. All right, so she gives us 3 classroom strategies that we'll go ahead and go through.
Hell yeah.
So strategy number 1, don't let them go the first time. The first time. Wait till they piss themselves. All right. Oftentimes, students.
Okay.
Oh no, Greg. I want to ask you this.
I
need you to tell me if this happened to you.
What?
Where you get this first sentence, and I want you to tell me this happened to you.
Oh my god.
Oftentimes, students set up appointments with their friends to meet in the bathroom or in the hallway at a certain time. How many toilet appointments did you have while in school?
Again.
I was constantly making toilet appointments.
If they've gone to all this trouble, so meaning a kid from another class,
they should be rewarded for the
at
trouble,
a certain
honestly.
time.
Yeah,
they're gonna go meet, high five, and go back to class. High five and go back to class in such a time as to not arouse suspicion. Then literally nothing has happened.
Yeah.
There's no crime there. If they are gone for a half an hour hanging out with their friends, then the problem isn't that they arranged some elaborate plan and lied about going to the bathroom. The problem is that, to the extent that there is a problem at all, the problem is that they're cutting class, not how they did it. Okay?
It's also just cool that people have friends.
Yeah.
Meet me in the hallway after your test, or meet me at 8:30 in the bathroom.
Yeah,
Things
after your test, again, this wouldn't work. The after your test, again, only a very specific time would
work, yeah. The 8:30 is like the best possible bet, but again, you're like, oh, how your school bathrooms were, but mine weren't like meet at like worthy. I don't know. I was trying not to hang out in the toilet, but
it sounds like a fun thing you do once, like, whoa, what if we lie to the teacher both at the same time, we met up, and then you do it once and you go like, well, this was fun, and you'd go back to class having been gone an entire 2 minutes. You'd probably go like, oh, I should probably piss while I'm here.
Well, the real problem is that exactly 0 elementary school kids do this. Maybe a middle school kid does this.
No one is thinking about in elementary school. Yeah, or high school kids.
High school kids. But what a high school kid does is they say, hey, let's meet in the toilet for 5 minutes during class. And their friend is like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Let's just skip class. And like, then they high five.
Yeah.
Then they leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's how you do it in high school.
No kid in elementary school is like plotting things with a kid in another class.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
They're like...
Yeah, I didn't even know kids in the other class in elementary school. They might as well have been in another fucking country. As far as
exactly. That's within like the same bathroom area. Like, come on, like.
All right, so let's get to our answers.
This is a paranoid psychotic.
So make your students ask you more than once. If they really have to go, then they'll ask you again. When a student asks you to use the restroom, tell them to do something like finish their worksheet or read the next chapter in the book. Read that chapter on cetaceans and Moby Dick. When you do this, they often forget that they have to go because they've pissed themselves. But they really have to go. They will not forget.
So what she's saying is, you'll make it a hassle, and they'll forget they have to go, so that they go on their break, so that they go at lunch, or they go between classes, or they go at recess on their way out to recess, right? Fuck you.
So the big thing is
off.
To make it a hassle. But the thing is too, it's like the students who are basically hold their teacher or hold themselves with enough respect, and maybe their teacher with enough contempt to ask over and over again, they get to use the bathroom.
Right.
The students that actually are the little drones. They're trying to make everybody piss themselves.
So, or they hold it in miserably and go like, God, this sucks. I guess this is my life, you know?
Yep.
And then they go, waddle to the bathroom and take
Yeah.
a piss. That's just fucking disgusting. It's torture. It's literally torture. I mean, also, give it if she actually does this, or
Yeah.
any teacher actually does this, like, then in a few years the next article she'll be writing is kids can see through your plan not to let them go the first time, which is why 2/3 of your class
time.
asked to go to the bathroom at the very start of class. Like,
Well, if kids were as devious as she's imagining, they would just ask over and over again, right? They'd figure this out, right? Ask over again. But the point is that I think we're about to get right here. She closes with essentially, I think, kind of telling on herself a little. Tell them to remind you after they've completed their task that you have given them. Only then will you really know if they were playing you or if they really needed to go. So she's just convinced that there is an international toilet conspiracy against her. Like, all the kids.
I'm just disgusted by this person.
All right, well, let's get to tip number 2. So tip number 2 is make a classroom policy. In the beginning of the school year, instruct students that they are not to disrupt any lesson that you are teaching to ask to go to the bathroom. However, they can quietly write their name and time on a sheet of paper and place it on your desk before they leave the classroom to go to the bathroom. Only one student is allowed to leave the classroom at a time, and they must only be gone for a certain amount of minutes before they get penalized. Hey, that's like my job at the telemarketing company. If you see
this sounds like a very different, like, essentially, like, reasonable thing. So then what, like, again, it still sounds like prison, but, like, comparatively, like, kids just go when they need to, and you just track that they've been gone a long time. I mean, making them write it down is stupid, but, like, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's see. It sounds like a good policy. Let's continue. If you see that students are overusing the policy, then take them aside and tell them that they must see the nurse because they may have medical issues that need to be checked out.
Holy shit.
This will help you decipher if a student really needs to go all the time or they're just using the bathroom as a chance to meet with their friends.
Oh my god, if you're worried about fucking people meeting to friends in the back,
How many friends do you think she's got? I feel like not a lot.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
But she only has friends in bathrooms.
So this is like the rational school policy that I feel like has always existed, which is you ask the teacher to use the bathroom and you just go one at a time or whatever. And you have
or you don't
pass
ask, right? And there's just a thing
little
that,
pass
like,
or
you
whatever.
go, you get the one pass at a time, then you bring it back and no one. But you don't have to say anything.
But I do love that it has to have a punitive aspect to it, which is like the humiliation of like being taken aside and being like, "There's something wrong with your dick. You need to go."
Also,
to the nurse.
like, it's important to mostly be lying to the kids all the time.
Yeah. Oof. All right.
What a fucking shitty country.
So here's our final bathroom tip here, and it's called a 3 a day. So, that's what sounds exciting. Elementary students usually don't try and meet their friends in the bathroom like high school students do. Oh, that's reasonable. But they do like to get up and leave the classroom. This is one of those classic ones of like, maybe they just don't like you.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered?
Maybe, like, when you're a young kid and you haven't been through this, like, machine that compresses you into a fucking cog, that you just have natural human instincts to not be there.
That maybe the school experience is a completely unnatural and awful experience.
And it's if it was preparing you to occupy a place in some good society, maybe you could forgive it or something, but it's not. It's preparing you to lead a hideous life of pain and suffering.
All right, so now keep in mind, this one is specifically for elementary school students.
I can't wait.
To hinder students from always wanting to leave the classroom, try implementing the 3 a day system. Give each student 3 laminated cards that they have their name and room number on. Each day, students get 3 chances to use the restroom at their own leisure. At the end of the week, the student or the teacher counts up how many cards the student used had total for the week. I'm going to say this is written like dog shit, by the way.
Wait, so they... How many cards do they get? Do they get...
So they get 3 cards for the day.
Sure they don't get 15? 'Cause, like...
Well, 15 for the week, 3 for the day.
So you're sounds like half your time would be managing this bathroom, this special currency
By the way,
just for
this
bathrooms.
is exactly how managerial systems
This-
work, which is you create some complicated system to try and like
that would
2
take up
seconds
that you need like
Yeah.
another manager
Yeah.
to do.
That costs way more than the time loss or whatever that you supposedly resolved. Yeah. You have like a whole staff now that just does this. All right. Oh, well, here, she's going to explain it for us. For example, student A used 1 card on Monday, all 3 cards on Tuesday, and no cards on Wednesday. The more cards the students have left over on Friday, the bigger the prize they can get from the prize box. This system helps eliminate a lot of students from using their cards to just get up and use the restroom as a break.
Really? Really? You think if you are desperate to just get up and take a fucking break that you're gonna...
By the way, no. Anybody who's been around like kindergartners, first
yeah.
graders, etc.,
They're suckers
you're
for
literally
prizes.
you're literally training them to piss themselves. Like
Yeah.
the parents spent all this time potty training them and trying to get them like ready for society, and the teachers literally undoing it, being like, "Nah, man, just piss in your pants. Here's some Legos."
Oh, you think they're giving out Legos,
Whatever
dude? This is
dumb
some dollar
thing.
store shit.
But whatever dumb thing, like you want a prize, you better piss yourself, kid. Like it again is literally the secretary.
Well,
like-
you're training people to give up their human function, their dignity, and their time for
Uh-huh.
a little
For a
like
wooden medal.
prize or reward, instead of just doing like what comes natural
Yeah, and
to suppress their natural urges for the promise of some prize at the end. You know.
well, and so I mean that was her last tip, and she assures us that once we figure out the system that works for us, we're gonna have less classroom disruptions and more time to teach. Although, as we pointed out just recently, like this is seriously eating into your time.
Holy
as a
shit,
teacher.
that sounds
like,
fucking complicated and time consuming. More time to teach. Jesus. Classroom disruption. That's not even what you were talking about. You were talking about kids being in the fucking bathroom with each
Yep.
other. Not like standing up and pissing on their desks. Like,
This woman's like, every time I come into a room, everybody gets up and leaves immediately. How can I stop this? But yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, you know, what a wonderful country we live in. What a normal thing to have on a teacher's website for, you know, teaching ideas. You know, what a great time all around.
fucking unbelievable.
Well,
Ugh, just disgusting.
yeah, awful. I see the Sandman is tugging at Greg's little eyelids. So I think that we can go ahead and close up this special unparented episode of Seattle Sucks, where not one of us got up to use the bathroom during the thing.
I have to pee so bad right now.
So do I, but I'm just going to go on myself now. I've been inspired by this.
I mean, just don't do it on the cushions. You can piss on the cabin sole because it all just runs to the bilge.
Well, I think in Stud Turkle's book, Working, he talks about you know, assembly line workers in the 50s and 60s wearing diapers so that because they couldn't leave the line and they would just piss on themselves. And I'm glad that we're just returning to that beautiful time. So,
Cool. Great.
Yeah, sounds awesome. So we had some new patrons. Sorry, Colin's not here, so he can't tell us who they are. I'm sure you're all cool. I think one of you was named Casey. So what's up? We'll do better next time. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Yeah.